new here, my name's Victoria. I'm a home educating mum of 5 in England. I do homeschool videos, home education, hauls, and I do some vlogging. I'm mostly doing vlogging on Patreon now, but I am doing some vlogging on here. Like, it's my birthday on Saturday, so I'm going to vlog that and put it on here. And then shortly after it's my daughter's birthday, I'm going to vlog that and put it on here. Anyway, I'm trying to do this video for about a week, and your man there's asleep, so I'll do it now. Large Family Mama, she's on YouTube and Instagram. She shared some on Instagram the other week, and it was a quote from Rockefeller saying that he wanted a nation of workers, not a nation of thinkers. And he was one of the people who instigated this factory type modern schooling that we get now, and he invested a lot of money in it. He was one of them that, you know, started it all. And then I thought, I wonder who actually did invent school. So I looked into it, fell down a bit of a rabbit hole. I'm going to tell you what I found, and there's a lot of quotes I'm going to read you, but that's because I think they're interesting, and also rather than me just ranting, quotes from people of the time shows that I'm not making this up. They weren't. It's similar to now with what they're trying to do with kids, the government. They're not hiding anything. It's just people just let these things roll. Like, they weren't hiding anything. The real reason they introduced schooling. Then I'll tell you what I think, and if I think it's got any place in modern society and what have you. So if I look at my phone a lot, it's because I'm reading these quotes. Not because I'm ignoring you. Right. So this first quote, it's not how school was invented, but it's to do with school, so I'm just going to read it, yeah? Oh, your man there's awake. Oh, Albert Einstein. Oh. What, are you still sleepy? Hey, look. Are you still sleepy? Are you awake? No. Oh. Albert Einstein. It is in fact nothing short of a miracle that the modern methods of instruction have not yet entirely strangled the holy curiosity of inquiry. It is a very grave mistake to think that the enjoyment of seeing and searching can be promoted by means of coercion and a sense of duty. I thought that was interesting. So, and this is another one. This was H.L. Mencken on compulsory public schooling. The most erroneous assumption is to the effect that the aim of public education is to fill the young of the species with knowledge and awaken their intelligence. Nothing could be further than the truth. I ain't got my glasses on. The aim of public education is not to spread enlightenment at all. It is simply to reduce as many individuals as possible to the same safe level, to breed and train a standardised citizenry, to put down dissent and originality. That is the aim in the United States, whatever the pretensions of politicians, and that is the aim everywhere else. Oh, powerful stuff. So, hello. He's had like a minute sleep because I wanted to. Apparently, school was first invented by the Spartans. You know, like Gerard Butler, this is Sparta. Because they used to send their lads off to military school to create soldiers for the army. But after that, it was 16th century Europe, and a man called Martin Luther, I think it was Germany, but forgive me if it's not, said, I maintain that the civil authorities are under obligation to compel the people to send their children to school. If the government can compel such citizens as are fit for military service to bear spear and rifle and perform other martial duties in time of war, how much more has it a right to compel the people to send their children to school? Because in this case, we are warring with the devil, whose object it is to secretly to exhaust our cities and principalities of their strong men. So Martin Luther was very religious, and he was pushing for these like religious schools to go on. Where is it? And then in 1717, Frederick William I, King of Prussia, they got the idea. They were like, oh, that's a good idea. And they introduced the factory model of schooling, which is what, which is the kind of schooling we have now, like in its early infancy. Who tooting? Rena Upitis from Raising a School said, in factory schools, teaching, like the buildings, tends to be box-like and linear. Transmission teaching dominates. Standing at the front of the classroom, the teacher transmits knowledge to the students. This kind of teaching works best when the teacher can see everyone at once, and so classrooms are created as a series of boxes. The most pervasive example being one of double-loaded classrooms down a single long hallway. And the things for this factory modelling of school, the principles were we'll just say standardization of teaching, testing and learning rates, respect for authority over the exploration of truth, well, that was interesting, uniformity and orthodoxy over innovation and progress. Okay. Then in 1852, Massachusetts in America was the first to adopt such a system, and by 1900 practically all the states had it. So Massachusetts was the first one in the mid-1800s in America. Within the next 50 years, nearly all the states had it. And that'll be the time when Rockefeller and all the other industrialists were encouraging it and putting money into it so that they could so that they were all get rid of originality, so that all the same used to be in a factory type school, getting them ready to working in a factory type setting. Then those basic skills they're going to need is working in factories, getting used to the fact that you come here for so many hours a day. When the bell rings you go there, when somebody tells you go there. This is your life. So to sum it up, in 1900 every country in Europe had established compulsory schooling except for Belgium. England, which is where I'm from, after much opposition implemented compulsory schooling in the late 19th century. Well, they introduced compulsory schooling in the late 1880s, I think, in England. But in 1901 truancy was rife because a lot of these families couldn't afford for their kids to go to school because they couldn't afford to give up their child's wage. One of the reasons they said that they brought in compulsory schooling in England was to stop child labour, because little kiddies were working on pits and factories and stuff, weren't they? They don't talk about it. They don't talk about it very often. When they do programmes about Victorian England, they'll show like farms and places like Downton Abbey and servants. But London was a cesspit. It was full of prostitutes and child prostitutes and people starving to death and kids in workhouses, and it was not a nice place. So if the difference between you keep having food in your belly and a roof over your head is your child going to work and you're being in the workhouse and you're being separated, you can even though child labour is not right, you can see why parents were opposed to it, can't you? You know, they're out of the house all day earning money, keeping the family afloat, or they could be out of the house all day at school not earning anything. So I think, and also, you know, kids that grew up on farms and things that have needed their help. That's why the school year is laid out how it is, where you get the 6 week off during the summer because the kids had to go and help the fathers on the farm. That's where that comes from. So it did come about in England, but there was opposition because parents didn't want it. Parents that were struggling for money didn't want it. Canada quickly followed America in implementing a system based on the factory model developed in Prussia. And then these are just some quotes from people at the time, and they're mostly American quotes, but I think that's because that's where this modern type of schooling really came in. And like anything really, England soon follows America, don't we, on a lot of things. So Elwood Cubberley in who lived 1868 to 1941 said, our schools are, in a sense, factories in which the raw products, children, are to be shaped and fashioned into products to meet the various demands of life. The specifications for manufacturing comes from the demands of 20th century civilization, and it is the business of the school to build its pupils according to the specifications laid down. Public school administration, when he said that. And then the United States Commissioner of Education, around the same time, William Torrey Harris, said 99 students out of 100 are automatter, careful to walk in prescribed paths, careful to follow the prescribed custom. This is not an accident, but the results of substantial education, which scientifically defined is the subsumption of the individual. I'm reading a load of quotes now. Frederick Taylor Gates, who was the business advisor to Rockefeller, and that's him that, you know, the industrialist who invested lots of money in American schooling, him who said, I want a nation of workers, not thinkers, said, in our dream, the people yield themselves with perfect docility to our moulding hand. We shall not try to make these people or any of their children into philosophers or men of learning or of science. We are not to raise up from among them authors, orators, poets, or men of letters. We shall not search for embryo great artists, painters, musicians, nor will we cherish even the humbler ambition to raise up from among them lawyers, doctors, preachers, politicians, statesmen, of whom we now have ample supply. For the task that we have set before ourselves is a very simple as well as a very beautiful one, to train these people as we find them for a perfectly ideal life where they are, an idyllic life under the skies and within the horizon, however narrow, where they first open their eyes. So it's to make people, this is your station in life, this is where you're staying, be obedient, hard working, get on with it. Pinky, just 1 minute, Dot. Hang on, I wanted to do this in one clip. I'm gonna have to come back. Pinky's upset about something. Hang on, wait there, I'm coming back. I'm back. I better be quick, I'm nearly done now anyway. Sit there, my love. Where are we? I hate that, you know, when they flip the wrong way on you. Right. I want it to go that way, it won't. Oh, fluff this up. I should have brought my glasses back up. See, now I'm at a stage allowed for any glasses to read. Charles Sanders Peirce said, let the will of the state act them instead of that of the individual. Let the will of the state act then instead of the will of the individual. Let an institution be created that shall have for its object to keep correct doctrines before the attention of the people, to reiterate them perpetually, and to teach them to be the young. What's a big burp? In conduct, one minute. I don't know if I can read that one, but it's more. Oh yeah, I'll just skip to the end of the quote for the sake of my eyes. Let them be kept ignorant, lest they should learn of some reason to think otherwise than they do. Let their passions be enlisted so that they may regard private and unusual opinions with hatred and horror. It's all about keeping you away. Well, that was the last one, and all. It's all about, and one of the reasons it was pushed through in Parliament in our country, in England, was because we was one of the leaders in industrialisation, in manufacturing, and they wanted to keep that going. So they didn't even hide it, did they? They didn't even hide it. The reason school was invented was to create factory workers, obedient citizens, to get them as young as they can from their parents, to train them into being the kind of citizens they wanted. Not for educational purposes other than to teach them the basic skills that they'd need to be those kind of citizens. Now, yeah, let me sit there. Now, has any of that changed? No? The schools are still breeding grounds for what the government wants, aren't they? Let's be honest. Now, I do genuinely think a child is better off in school than working down a mine or in a factory or being a child prostitute or being in the workhouse or any of that. So I do think it was perhaps a good thing for working class children back in those days And now we don't have that problem, do we? Now I think some children are better off in school. I do. But there's an awful lot that aren't. And I don't think any child should be being raised and moulded by the government. And I think it's important that we keep our rights as parents and children's rights. Children have their own rights, don't they, to be educated, which is the way that is best for them and the way that works best for them and the whole family. So there you are. Next time somebody says school was invented to create factory workers, or somebody questions that, you can back that up now. Because like, I think a lot of people are, oh yeah, no it's not. But even with the evidence, even with the quotes, people will be just like, oh, that's how the government get away with these things. Like the things they put into school now, the things they're indoctrinating into children now. Parents know about it, they just don't do anything. It's just like, oh, it sounds like Bod's apologising to Pinky. Good. Right, come on you man there. Oh dear, the baby. So, I went down a rabbit hole. That's how schools were invented, and it is true. That's why. I'm going to go now. I'll see you next time, my loves. Ta-ta.